What does it feel like when a rocket-propelled grenade slams into your position with the force of a freight train? For soldiers across decades of conflict, from Vietnam to Ukraine, this isn't a hypothetical question. RPGs have been responsible for some of the most devastating injuries in modern warfare, turning armored vehicles into death traps and leaving survivors with life-altering wounds. What is terrifying about these weapons is that they were designed specifically to penetrate armor and create maximum destruction in confined spaces. But what really happens to the human body when it encounters this level of explosive force? You'll find out through the harrowing accounts of soldiers who live to tell their stories. The last one is a shocking miracle, so be sure to stay till the end. The RPG-7, first developed by the Soviet Union in 1961, has become one of the most widely used anti-armor weapons in history. Over 40 countries have produced variants of this weapon, and it's estimated that over 9 million have been manufactured. The warhead contains a shaped charge that can penetrate over 260 millimeters of steel armor, while the explosion creates a lethal blast radius of 15 meters. For infantry, vehicles, and aircraft, an RPG hit often means the difference between going home and never coming home at all. This weapon wasn't just another piece of military hardware, it fundamentally changed how modern combat works. RPGs democratized anti-armor warfare, allowing even poorly equipped forces to destroy the most advanced vehicles. But for the crews and soldiers on the receiving end, the technical specifications matter less than the brutal reality of what happens when that warhead detonates. When an RPG hits a helicopter, they don't just blow up like you see in most video games. The reality is a lot more terrifying than that, actually. The results are almost always catastrophic. Aircraft are designed for flight, not surviving explosions, and even a glancing blow can send a chopper spiraling toward the ground. I mean, we've all seen Black Hawk Down, right? Most people remember snipers Gary Gordon and Randy Shuggart, but there was actually a third Delta Force sniper with them, Sergeant First Class Brad Holling. Unlike Gordon and Shuggart, Halling remained aboard the Black Hawk, providing overwatch from above during the Battle of Mogadishu on October 3, 1993. While delivering aerial fire support from Super 6-2, the helicopter was struck by an RPG. The blast severed Halling's left leg above the knee, leaving him gravely wounded and bleeding inside the aircraft. Using another soldier's belt and a screwdriver, Halling improvised a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. What makes his story remarkable isn't just his survival, but what happened next. When the helicopter returned to base and medics examined his mangled leg, Halling insisted they treat another soldier first, a man who had been hit in the hip by an RPG and was in worse condition. That soldier died 2 hours later. Fortunately, Halling survived, but his leg had to be amputated as a result of his wounds. The physics of an RPG hitting a helicopter are brutal. Aircraft aluminum provides virtually no protection against a shaped charge designed to penetrate tank armor. The explosion typically destroys critical flight systems, while fragments tear through the cabin at lethal velocities. Crew members faced burns from fuel fires, crushing injuries from crashes, and massive trauma from the initial blast. Helicopters are particularly vulnerable because it usually only takes one hit to bring them down. During Operation Red Wings in 2005, Taliban fighters used an RPG to shoot down a Chinook helicopter carrying a SEAL rescue team, killing all 16 Special Operations personnel aboard. The 2011 Extortion 17 incident saw another Chinook destroyed by a single RPG, killing 38 coalition personnel, including 25 US Special Forces soldiers. These aircraft, despite their military designation, offer virtually no protection against anti-armor weapons that were designed specifically to destroy much heavier targets. For soldiers in unarmored or lightly armored vehicles, an RPG hit is often a death sentence. Humvees, despite their military appearance, offer minimal protection against anti-armor weapons. The thin aluminum and steel frame construction might stop small arms fire, but it's no match for a shaped charge warhead. When an RPG hits a Humvee, the shaped charge creates a jet of molten copper that penetrates the vehicle's skin at temperatures exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius. This superheated stream doesn't just punch through metal, it creates a cone of destruction inside the passenger compartment. Occupants face immediate threats from the penetrating jet, blast overpressure, fragmentation, and often secondary fires from fuel ignition. The blast overpressure alone can cause traumatic brain injuries, ruptured eardrums, and internal organ damage. Survivors often describe a momentary blackout followed by confusion, bleeding from the ears, and severe hearing loss. Those closest to the impact point typically suffer massive trauma from the penetrating jet and high-velocity fragments. What makes vehicle hits particularly devastating is the confined space. In open terrain, soldiers might survive an RPG explosion at 20 or 30 meters. Inside a vehicle, that same explosive force has nowhere to go except through human bodies. The metal interior becomes a fragmentation chamber, with every surface potentially turning into deadly projectiles. Even main battle tanks aren't immune to RPG damage, especially when crews become complacent about basic safety procedures. Staff Sergeant Nick Popovich, known as the Cigar Marine, discovered this during the Second Battle of Fallujah when his M1A1 Abrams tank was hit by an RPG. The critical factor in Popovich's injury was that his tank's hatches were open, a common practice for better visibility and communication, but one that eliminates the tank's primary protection. When the RPG struck, fragments entered through the open commander's hatch, severely damaging Popovich's right eye and causing traumatic brain injury. Modern tank armor is designed to defeat RPGs through multiple layers of protection. The M1A1's depleted uranium armor can typically stop even advanced RPG warheads when the vehicle is properly buttoned up. But crew visibility requirements and the need for situational awareness often force commanders to operate with hatches open, creating vulnerabilities that insurgents actively exploit. When an RPG does penetrate a tank's armor, the crew compartment becomes a nightmare of superheated gas, metal fragments, and toxic fumes. The blast typically damages vision blocks, communication systems, and fire controls, while crew members suffer burns, lacerations, and blast injuries. Secondary ammunition explosions can occur if the penetrating jet reaches stored rounds. Popovich survived his injuries but lost sight in his right eye and suffered permanent hearing damage. His experience illustrates how even the world's most advanced tanks can become death traps when proper protection procedures aren't followed. In this clip, you can see Philippine forces in Marawi and one of their M113s taking a hit from an RPG. Fortunately, the RPG didn't cause significant damage thanks to the armor they had applied. Philippine troops often have a pretty unconventional way of reinforcing their vehicles, using things like wooden planks, scrap metal, and whatever else they can get their hands on. Heck, in some cases, they've even used cardboard to successfully reduce the impact of RPGs just like this. Perhaps the most shocking aspect of RPG encounters is when the weapon strikes a human target directly. If you are truly curious, this is what happens. In most cases, this means instant death. The human body simply cannot survive the explosive force and penetrating power of an anti-armor warhead. The shaped charge warhead is designed to penetrate steel armor, so human flesh and bone provide no meaningful resistance. The explosion typically vaporizes everything within the immediate blast radius, while fragments create lethal wounds out to 15 meters or more. Even near misses can cause severe injuries from blast overpressure and fragmentation. So yes, under normal circumstances, direct RPG hits on personnel result in complete destruction of the human body, which I'm sure is obvious to most. However, there are extraordinary exceptions that defy belief. In Ukraine, a soldier discovered that an RPG rocket had struck his helmet and miraculously bounced off it. The rocket's impact was sufficient to knock him down, and he initially thought he'd been hit by sniper fire. Only when his teammates examined him did he discover that an RPG round had ricocheted and glanced off his helmet.
There you in the head.
Yeah.
Sniper. Wait, what? I don't know. That was a fucking rocket.
Yeah, it was a rocket, but...
Oh, rocket bounced off my head? Yeah. Oh, fuck!
Well, that's essentially a lottery win. He'll probably wake up with a sore neck, but honestly, it was one of those wild fluke moments that could have gone horribly wrong, but didn't. Sometimes all you can do is laugh it off and not overthink it. Sometimes surviving an RPG isn't about taking a direct hit. It's about being close enough to experience the weapon's devastating blast effects. One documented case shows a Special Forces operator who was nearly struck by an RPG during a firefight.
Holy shit.
Get over here, Eddie.
The rocket exploded close enough to cause immediate disorientation, hearing loss, and signs of concussion.
Talk to me, you alright? You concussed?
Dude, it's my fucking spitting headache, dude.
Commander's tell me that one of the guys, one of the TV is not correct.
Alright.
The soldier's teammates had to shout to communicate with him. though he perceived their normal voices as excessively loud, a classic symptom of blast-induced hearing damage.
Did you this?
Yeah.
No, he did. There was a jam. I cleared it. Stop screaming, dude. That was loud.
These near-miss encounters demonstrate that you don't need to take a direct hit to suffer serious injuries. The blast wave from an RPG explosion creates overpressure that can rupture lungs, cause brain swelling, and damage internal organs. The fragmentation pattern spreads deadly metal pieces across a wide area, while the thermal effects can cause severe burns. Blast-induced traumatic brain injury has become one of the signature wounds of modern conflicts. Soldiers may appear physically uninjured but suffer cognitive impairment, memory problems, and psychological trauma that can last for years or become permanent. And speaking of blast-induced trauma, one of the most dangerous aspects of RPG weapons isn't just being on the receiving end, it's being behind one when it fires. The backblast from an RPG-7 extends 15 meters behind the weapon and can kill or seriously injure anyone caught in its path, like this Russian soldier. Of course, I can't show the full clip here on YouTube because the backblast actually took this guy out. So you're going to have to use your imagination or search it on Reddit. Any weapon like this is basically just a rocket in a tube. There's a massive jet of exhaust gas that blows out when it's fired. It happens very fast, but it can kill you. This danger has led to documented cases of friendly fire incidents where inexperienced fighters position themselves incorrectly when firing RPGs. The superheated gases expelled from the rear of the weapon can cause severe burns, while the blast pressure can rupture internal organs and cause immediate death. Military training emphasizes proper positioning and clearance zones for anti-armor weapons, but in the chaos of combat, these safety procedures are sometimes forgotten. I couldn't show that other clip, but I can show this one. Afghan National Army soldiers have been recorded nearly killing American advisors by failing to maintain proper backblast clearance, leading to heated confrontations about basic weapon safety.
You motherfucker! No, you motherfucker! You almost fucking killed me!
The irony is that while soldiers focus on avoiding incoming RPGs, the weapon's backblast creates an equally deadly zone behind the shooter. Proper training and discipline are essential to prevent friendly casualties from weapons that are supposed to protect friendly forces. Surviving an RPG encounter often means beginning a long journey of medical treatment, rehabilitation, and adaptation to permanent disabilities. Modern combat medicine has dramatically improved survival rates for severe trauma, but the injuries caused by anti-armor weapons often exceed what medical science can fully repair. Brad Halling's determination to continue serving despite losing his leg represents the exceptional mental toughness required to overcome these injuries. His case also illustrates how military policies have evolved to accommodate wounded warriors who refuse to give up their military careers. For families and fellow soldiers, watching someone recover from RPG injuries provides harsh lessons about the true cost of modern warfare. These weapons don't just wound, they fundamentally alter lives, ending some careers while beginning others focused on adaptation and advocacy for wounded veterans. The brutal reality is that RPGs represent one of the most effective and widely available anti-armor weapons ever created. For the soldiers who encounter them, survival often depends on factors beyond their control: luck, equipment, positioning, and the immediate availability of medical care. Understanding what these weapons do to human beings isn't about glorifying violence. It's about recognizing the sacrifices made by those who face these threats daily, and the medical advances needed to help survivors rebuild their lives.